Hi, I'm Steve Murphy, and welcome to the Insider Exclusive. Today we are featuring the Chief of Police of Los Angeles, Bill Bratton, and his wife, Rikki Klieman, one of America's top criminal defense attorneys. Stay tuned. This is an unusual show that we're doing here because we see you as a couple. What is it like as a couple? You're in Los Angeles. You can go anywhere you want. What do you guys do?
It's Hill Street Blues, reality TV.
It is, isn't it?
In certain ways it is. You know, we certainly have discussions about issues that we agree upon and we disagree upon in terms of policy. But what do we do when we're not being professional? Well, we go to the movies.
You know, you are a well-known criminal defense lawyer. And a lot of people don't know that because they see you on TV and, oh, you're just an actress or an actor, you know. And he's law enforcement. What do you see between you? What do you see in the administration of law enforcement and justice today? How do you see this? Is it successful in deterring crime? How do you view that from your different perspectives?
Well, I think the fact that in the 90s we began to get it right, that the community policing philosophy that you and I talked about earlier, yes, that this is not rocket science. It's a matter of resources, it's a matter of leadership, it's a matter of commitment. And we had all of that in the 1990s. Unfortunately, after 9/11, the federal government involvement became focused on the war on terrorism, yes, and forgot about the war here in the streets of America, basically the gang violence, increasing youth violence. And so the idea of criminal justice, we're getting better at it. The technology that's becoming available, DNA, and Rikki and I spend a lot of our time involved in those discussions. She works on the board of directors for the Rape Treatment Center, and dealing with that horrendous crime, DNA is an incredible tool to help convict rapists, because oftentimes they're serial rapists. So if you can get them, you can put them away for a long time and prevent a lot of people from becoming the victims of rape.
I think that policing has become a great profession. I go with Bill to lots of conferences, and really they're looking for best practices, and they're looking for great leadership. And I enjoy listening to those parts of the conversation that are public where I can attend. I've gone with Bill many times to London when he's dealing with Scotland Yard and the Metropolitan Police on issues of terrorism. And again, for those sessions where I'm permitted to attend, obviously there are sessions that are secret that I could not attend. I'm very proud of the policing profession. On the other hand, I think where my distress is, from all of my years at Court TV, but also my relationships with people like Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld at the Innocence Project, Jim Doyle, who does the work with eyewitness identification. I'm highly distressed about the jury system, because we do find now that I mean, you're dealing with well over 100 people who have been exonerated by virtue of DNA or otherwise, 200 now. And that what you find is that juries have really been captive to emotional testimony that doesn't have the stuff to back it up, and that's distressing to me.
And you're talking about like eyewitness testimony.
Yes, eyewitness and false
DNA.
confession.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of being married to Rikki, that a lot of my world now is her former world and current world, the world of the criminal defense attorney. Right. We were just in Chicago this week at Northwestern University, where every year she teaches a session that has defense attorneys and prosecutors come in to try to improve their performance. And I was the keynote speaker for both audiences. And so it's interesting for me, from my side of the fence, to every once in a while hop over the other side of the fence and see the world from that perspective.
I'll give you a funny little story. It's for my 50th birthday. Bill and I were dating at the time.
You don't look that old.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. That's a long time ago.
She's aging well.
So at my 50th birthday, I was co-hosting a show with Johnny Cochran and in New York for Court TV. And Bill didn't know who to surprise me with, so he called Johnny, and they arranged this little surprise party, and I have the photos to prove it. Every person at that table, with the exception of my husband, was a criminal defense lawyer. So it was a good introduction for him. So he has probably gotten more liberal as time has gone on. No, I have gotten more conservative.
Not liberal, more progressive.
Progressive.
More enlightened.
Enlightened is
you know,
good,
and that brings up another point, because every criminal defense attorney will say one thing, you know, no matter how terrible the client that they may represent. What they're really doing is they're protecting the majority of us, you know, against the excesses of the prosecution.
There's no question.
The idea is that in all my speeches I start off that the first obligation of government is public safety.
Yes.
And the systems that ensure that. And so effectively what defense attorneys do, that the vast majority of people that are tried are usually guilty of some significant aspect of what they're being charged with. But at the same time, the role of both the prosecutor and the criminal defense attorney should be to ensure that the system is in fact being put in place correctly.
You know, that brings up another point when you were talking about accountability. And I noticed that in researching before this interview, you decentralized the LAPD, didn't you?
Well, I just one of my management mantras is decentralization. I can't be everywhere as chief of police. So what you try to do is instill my goals, if you will, my vision farther down in the organization, so you find people at the appropriate level where it can be, where the rubber meets the road, if you will.
Right. Do you find that philosophy easy to carry through the entire LAPD?
No, because cops, interestingly enough, policing is a risk-taking profession.
Yes.
But cops, in terms of once they join, that the organization usually smothers that risk-taking incentive, that everybody's afraid to stick their neck out. And a lot of my management style is about encouraging and rewarding that, but when you do that, you're going to make mistakes, and the idea is to try to correct the mistake, not penalize it.
Well, you're amazing in the sense that you started from the ground level. You rose up through the ranks, not just once, twice, 3 times.
That's how it's done in policing, that nobody starts at the top.
But the thing is, people get jaded in the, you know, down below there. They get jaded. You know, they don't want to give a, you know, optimistic viewpoint or anything. How do you tell yourself there's a better way of doing things?
Well, I think Rikki reinforced this. I'm an eternal optimist, for one thing. I'm not cynical. And I also benefited early on in my police career, even as I was, my first couple of years of policing, I was going on a federally funded scholarship to college.
Yes.
They were funding more officers getting college degrees. Mm-hmm. And so at a very interesting time in our history, the student demonstrations against the war and for civil rights, that I'd be on the picket line in the afternoon in my blue uniform guarding the federal building against the students who in the morning I was attending classes with. So I never get wrapped up in what I call the blue cocoon. And too many cops, basically, all they do is hang out with cops, and they only see things through the eyes of a cop.
Yes.
So Rikki, and we just talked about that through association with Rikki and a lot of her colleagues, I get to see the totality of the world. Then I make my decisions, but I'm more well-informed.
I think going to this Northwestern course was an interesting experience. The first time Bill has been there, it's a continuing legal education course. On one side of the building, prosecutors, on the other side, defense lawyers, and lots of plenary sessions. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important because we need to respect each other as part of a system. We should not be enemies.
Yes.
We should be able to make the system function. And that's really the ideal situation. Bill gives the keynote this year on the history of policing and the new paradigm of policing in the 21st century. And I will guarantee you that in the mix of that auditorium where you had prosecutors sitting with defense attorneys, that everyone was eager to learn. And that's the kind of thing that we should be fostering.
We were all going after the same thing, the truth.
Yes.
And long days have gone by when you had a Frank Rizzo as a police commissioner, right?
Philadelphia,
yeah. Strong arm kind of guy. That's great. Well, I want to thank both of you for being here. It's been a real honor to have both of you here. I feel in safer hands in Los Angeles. I do, seriously, because I know you have a brain, you have an intelligence, you have a success record, and I appreciate the input and the influence that you have, you know, from the defense side, because then you can have an overall perspective. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you very much, Chief.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching our shows. I've enjoyed bringing you some great guests. You can see more of them at www.insiderexclusive.com. We'll be back again. Thanks.